Good morning. Welcome to the Community Voice. I'm Steve Graddick, your host. Delighted to have you with us this morning. Hope everyone had a good Easter. And we are deep into the political season. And I'm honored to have back in the studio Jim Bennett, candidate for U.S. Congress, jimbennett.us. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, everyone.
This is actually your third official visit.
Trip three.
Trip three, because you started a lot sooner than these other guys. You started in July 4th, 2023.
I did. I saw a need to get in early because I was unhappy with our current congressman, and I did not appreciate his voting record, and I set about making certain that everyone knew what his voting record was, and that required getting started early.
Well, a lot's changed since then. The pun intended, an army of people have have jumped into the race when the incumbent decided he wasn't going to run again. And we've got two former state senators, we got a former state rep, we got an Army major, Army lieutenant colonel, and then we've got the number one political advisor to President Donald J. Trump. So,
you have a hermit from Ville, Georgia.
I mean, this kind of reminds me of my life. You start out, you think that something's going to be simple, and it becomes very complicated. So, but you were going to take the incumbent on head to head.
Yes, sir. I started this campaign for what I said. His voting record was not what I wanted to see, and I thought that the people of West Central Georgia deserved to actually have representation in Congress. Dr. Ferguson was voting mostly for his friends and his donors, and it was obvious when you actually took the time to sit back and look at his record. And I thought we deserved better. And being an old police officer, not just a hermit, being a businessman, I thought that I could do that, and so we entered the race.
So technically, you're not a politician. You've never held elected office.
I've never held elected office. I was the vice chairman of the district, of District 3, second vice chair for, a few months. But I had to give that up to be, and I was a state committeeman. But other than that, no, I've done nothing, and you have to give those positions up to run for office.
Okay, well, let's at this point, let's go back. Give me a little bit of a bio instead of me reading it. Tell me. You're from Bowden, Georgia.
Well, I say I'm from Carroll County because I never actually lived in any of the cities. We started off in Sand Hill, moved to Clem, and then we moved to Tyus, and now we live a stone's throw away from Alabama. Keep moving west.
Metropolitan area.
That's right, the greater Carroll. We've moved throughout. I've been here for 53 years. That's not right. 53 years in the district, 48 years in the county, and it's my home. It's where I've always lived. It's I say that I've lived, loved, fought, and bled for this community. I was a police officer for 7 years with a few of the agencies in the county, and after that, I became a businessman and worked for Trintex in Bowden. And when they got bought by Carlisle, I ended up going with the national procurement team and became a global commodity manager. I oversaw $100 million plus spend annually, and we saw the world through different eyes. We traveled the whole country, and that's what we did.
One thing that was part of the dynamic of the Trump administration was whether or not business practices could be applied to government, and they seem to be rarely applied to government. Is that feasible?
Oh, absolutely. It's literally one of the things I speak about is how if you want change, if you want things to be different in Washington, if you want a different outcome, then you're going to have to elect different leaders. And another thing I learned in business is that no one is indispensable. Every human being can be replaced because we're not that different from one another. There are people out there standing in the lines waiting that can be good servant leaders that don't have to sit there for 40 years. If we elect someone, just imagine a 30-something-year-old that wants to be a politician. he could sit in our seat for 40 years. Well, after 3-4 terms, is he going to be representing us, or are we going to be right back into the fire where we were with a politician that's serving himself, his friends, and his donors? And that's what we have to do, is recognize that change is possible, it's necessary, but service to the community has to be job one, which is why I got in this race to begin with, and that hasn't changed one tiny bit.
In the early years of this country, nobody really served an entire lifetime. They would
Right.
come and go, and I mean, they may come back, but they would go, and it wasn't this continuous 40, 50 year.
No. George Washington set the precedent for 2 terms, and that was for president. It's not in our Constitution then. It is now.
Yeah.
But why shouldn't we have something similar for the House and the Senate? It's not that it's wrong or that a person can't withstand Washington. It's just that it's extraordinarily rare. And therefore, if you want a government that's of the people and by the people, then it has to be from the people and not from a continuous revolving rolling class of elite ruling class of families that think that they run this country. And we have to stand up and say, enough, we're not doing that anymore. We're going to put people in power who are going, I won't say unwillingly, but it's certainly not their choice of things to do, and have them serve a few years and then leave. Let someone else stay in the position so that the lobbyists, so that the globalists cannot get their hooks in them and therefore determine the fate of our nation.
It does take, though, when you're elected, a lot of courage to repel those forces, because they are extremely strong.
It is, but it depends on how you conduct yourself, how you present yourself when you're talking to people. I was in procurement. There's absolutely opportunity for graft there, but no one ever offered me anything. It's because of the way I presented myself. It's you have to present the idea, or at least be present and let them know in uncertain terms that you're incorruptible, that you're not going to do things for special interests, that you're going to do things that are in the best interest of your people, and expanding your sphere of influence to the point that you're taking money from other people and trying to control the global, the whole world. I'm not sure that's what we intended for our House members to be doing.
But if you don't follow the party line, then your colleagues will ostracize you and make you pay a price, whether it's removal of committee assignments or whatever.
They will, and I will call them out. And I will say, this is what they're doing, this is the dirty tricks they're playing, and I just won't play that game. That's not who I am. If you know one thing about me, if anyone knows one thing about me, I am bullheaded. I had someone say, the problem isn't that you'll break, it's that you'll expect everyone around you to bend. Yes, that's true.
Our guest this morning is Jim Bennett, candidate for U.S. Congress. There are a lot of people in the race, and his website is jimbennett.us, and we'll be back with more after this.
Health is a journey. It's making better choices, even when it's not easy. It's taking care of yourself and the people you love. At Tanner Health System, we're there for you with every step, with primary care, heart care, cancer care, women's care, orthopedics, surgical services, and so much more. We're dedicated to helping you live and feel your best. So let's get on that journey to health. You've got places to be for many years to come. Find us at tanner.org.
The Entrepreneur Scholar Journey at Oak Mountain Academy is designed to provide students with a clearly defined curriculum-based track to acquire essential knowledge and skills for success in business and leadership. Critical areas include identifying entrepreneurial characteristics, selecting a value position, and business model development. I'm Patrick Uran, head of school, inviting you to journey with us on the mountain. For more information, visit us at oakmountain.us. Discover your journey at OMA. Prepare, explore, and achieve.
Welcome back to the Community Voice. Jim Bennett, candidate for U.S. Congress, is in the studio. He's got Unlike back on July 4, 2023, when he was going to unseat the incumbent or attempt to, now he's got.
We've done that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We've achieved goal one.
Well, we wondered why he wasn't going to run again. Was he just scared of you?
No, I don't think he's scared of me per se, but I do think that this campaign had a part of the decision. We helped influence. I believe that Mr. Ferguson had a set of friends on Capitol Hill, and one of them was Kevin McCarthy. And when Kevin McCarthy decided he was no longer going to be there, I think Mr. Ferguson, it made him less comfortable than he was. And the fact that we were pointing out what was going on, more and more people were listening. His votes he were taking, we were making certain that people understood what he had done and where he was voting. I think it became an untenable situation. If he wants to remain, if he wants to remain relatively powerful, then he can't afford to lose an election. That would be extraordinarily bad. And so it made no sense to continue in the path that he was going. He'd secured his retirement, and so he can move forward now and be a lobbyist or work for a major company or continue working with Mr. McCarthy. It's his choice.
Let's go back for a moment. We talked about business principles in government.
Yes, sir.
On your website, you talk about crony capitalism, and basically, we hear about a public-private partnership. I tend to call it more the government-private partnership, but I feel pretty legitimate in talking about it since I've dealt with the FCC for 40 years.
Yes, sir.
But where government gives favors or takes away benefits from people to modify the free market system, how cumbersome is that, and what kind of threat is that to the free market system?
Well, it's not capitalism at all. It is. I hate to say the word because it's more akin to fascism than it is to capitalism.
The control of the
correct, because when you combine, Mussolini said, I'm going to paraphrase. It's not going to be a perfect quote. That when you combine the power of the state with the power of the corporation, it is more properly called corporatism than it is fascism. And
the state controls the corporation.
The state controls the corporation through regulation. And the more that is done, the farther and farther away you get from capitalism. People say capitalism doesn't work. Capitalism works brilliantly. As our friend Rush Limbaugh used to say, it has removed more people from poverty than any other mechanism in the history of man. But when you start introducing government control as a prerequisite for a company to do well, now you're picking winners and you're not allowing the free market to choose them. It's a lot. Look at the electric vehicles, for instance. If electric vehicles were ready to be produced, if they were the bee's knees and they worked as we require them to work and need them to work, especially out here in the rural communities, if they worked, we couldn't keep them off the market. People would be clamoring at the doorstep saying, we need. Instead, you have Ford shutting down production of their electric vehicles because they're not selling. Why aren't they selling? Because they're not meeting the needs of the people. So we have the government mandating and raising the cost of vehicles for a technology that simply doesn't work. We're not there yet. Why do we have to rush it? Why do we have to do this? It is not as imminent as they claim, and it is a very good example of the government trying to pick for us instead of letting technology and people and free will decide on our own. We are not children. We can figure out what's in our best interest, and they need to let us do so.
But we are dependents, whether it's healthcare, housing, retirement, education. Government is pretty, broadcast media, it's everywhere.
It's by design. It is not a mistake. They are trying to turn us into, Europe. They want us to be a socialist country. And I am fighting tooth and nail saying, no, I don't want to live in that hell. I want to live in a free nation where the best product in the world succeeds, not the one who has the greatest voice in Washington, D.C.
You referenced earlier off mic about the Declaration, the pursuit of happiness and life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Yes, sir.
And therefore, that's where freedom comes in order that we can pursue happiness.
Well, you have to have you have to have a beginning. You have to have somewhere to stand, a foundation upon which you can build a nation. And Thomas Jefferson gave us that in the Declaration of Independence. And then we tried to create a constitution that limited our government so that the situation that we find ourselves in today wouldn't exist. And frankly, we have to reestablish those founding principles of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we can go into what does each of those mean. I mean, life. First of all, if you want to secure life, you've got to secure our southern border. I've gone into that story many times, even on this radio station, I believe, about my trip to the border. It was a life-changing experience. What you see on television is not relatable. What you see when you're there, it strikes at you in a very primal way. We've got 100,000 people, 100,000 Americans dying every year because of the drugs. We have a national security crisis because Hamas has been in South and Central America for over a decade. We don't need something like what happened on October 7th happening here. You have $451 billion of social services. But I promise you, if I put you on the shore of the Rio Grande, and there's 12 feet of concertina wire between you and the river itself, and there's a child being carried across that river by a tiny human being, by her mother less than 5 feet tall, if you've been a parent or a grandparent and you know the jeopardy that child's in, the border focuses itself down to a very, very fine point. And it is, I just want to stop the death. I don't want to see that child die. And that happened to me. And then 2 months later, that scenario happened to me. And 2 months later, exactly where I was standing, a woman and her 2 children are washed away. And they're gone. And that's not the 100,000 Americans, but it's still a life. And this magnet that Washington, D.C. has created is in direct opposition to life itself. And we cannot allow these people, and it's both sides, guys, it's both sides. If the Republicans had wanted the border closed, the border would have been closed. For whatever their reasons are, the border is still open because Republicans want it open. Close the river of death. Close the magnet that's drawing these people up from Central and South America who have been there for decades in many instances. They just see this as their best opportunity to get in.
You mentioned South America. I was reading about something called the Darien Pass in Panama, and I'm old enough to remember when President Carter gave away the Panama Canal, and we did everything we could to stop that with Representative Philip Crane. But now you read where Communist China is encirculating Panama, but also building the Darien Pass. So does that concern you?
The Darien Pass makes our border river look like a creek. It is this impassable jungle section that separates Central and South America. And a lot of these people are flying into South America and then migrating north. Some of them have been there for years. They're actually married to or have family in Colombia or Venezuela, and they find themselves wanting to come up, and obviously you walk here, right? Except there's no roads. There are no roads in the Darien Gap. It is just rivers. And you have to, these migrants have to pass through here, and they pay tolls along the way. And how they pay tolls is horrific. But they have to cross through this. To say it's like the Old West is not even comparable. It is completely lawless. And it is completely controlled by cartels. And we don't know how many people die there a year trying to get through that place.
So this will complete the Pan-American highway.
Yes, that's what China wants to do.
And this is part of the Belt Road Initiative of the Communist China.
Well, they want to finish the belt. They're actually in trouble a little bit, I think, with the belt
Road
Road Highway
Initiative.
Program.
Yeah.
They're so underwater and upside down on that, they can't continue to absorb the losses that they're achieving because they're giving away money and buildings and infrastructure, but they're not getting any return on that investment because the countries aren't paying them. So what they're doing instead is seizing the property that these countries put up for collateral. And while China can do that for a little while, they're having their own, especially real estate crisis right now, which is the cornerstone of their economy.
When you're on the campaign trail, what's the number one issue that people will talk to you about?
Immigration.
Why?
Because they see that the border is not just one problem. It is, like I said, it's a death problem with Americans dying from fentanyl. They see the national security issue. They see the spending, and they see that it also the hidden one is it's a direct assault on rule of law. Mm-hmm. America has become powerful because we are a safe haven for business, for life. And when we allow people to constantly and openly and brazenly violate our laws, it diminishes us as a nation and as our status as a whole. We cannot continue to give away our legacy, and that's another facet of the ultimate weapon against the United States is an open border, and people recognize that and they see it.
I don't think there's really well, that's kind of a different topic, but Ronald Reagan was instrumental, along with John Paul II, Lech Walesa, in bringing down the Soviet Union. Mm-hmm. Is Communist China trying to do the same thing to us that we did to the Soviet Union?
China wants to be the world hegemon. There's no doubt of that. That is their stated goal. And for that to happen, the United States has to be less than we are. And the best way for them to achieve that is not to fight us in a physical war. There's no reason. What you do is you take our manufacturing. That's my previous job. They were constantly trying to get me to, I purchased finished goods from all over the world, constantly looking for me to move manufacturing out of the United States and into other nations, Vietnam, Mexico, Cambodia, really? And China. And we can't continue to erode our manufacturing base because that's where actual wealth is built. Mm-hmm. You don't accrue wealth as a nation unless you're making things and selling them for value. You have to add value. And that's what China's doing right now. That's how their plan is, not to invade us or take us that way. They're going to buy us. They're going to add value to steel and to rubber and to cloth and turn it into goods, and they're going to outgrow us that way, the same way we did to the Soviet Union. They couldn't keep up with us economically. Well, China's plan is very much the same. We're going to continue to expand in an economic way such that America can't compete because America won't be making anything that America buys. That's their goal. That's their plan.
Our guest this morning is Jim Bennett, candidate for U.S. Congress, jimbennett.us. We're on Facebook Live, and we'll be back with more after this.
Health is a journey. It's making better choices, even when it's not easy. It's taking care of yourself and the people you love. At Tanner Health System, we're there for you with every step, with primary care, heart care, cancer care, women's care, orthopedics, surgical services, and so much more. We're dedicated to helping you live and feel your best. So let's get on that journey to health. You've got places to be for many years to come. Find us at tanner.org.
Oak Mountain Academy is an innovative school of academic excellence celebrating over 61 years. I'm Patrick Uran, head of school, inviting you to join us on the mountain to see our mission and vision in action. Academic excellence, a faith-based environment, and dynamic opportunities are just a few of the reasons our families choose Oak Mountain Academy. Academic scholarships and tuition assistance are available. For more information, visit us at oakmountain.us. Discover your journey at OMA. Prepare, explore, and achieve.
Good morning. Welcome back to Community Voice. We got Jim Bennett, candidate for U.S. Congress, 3rd District, jimbennett.us. before we kind of wrap it up, talking about the campaign one more time, you were talking about China and the critical need for manufacturing in America. However, our debt now is $34+ trillion.
Yes, sir.
So whether you did that personally, you did that in your business, you're walking toward bankruptcy, and the dollar is no longer the world's reserve currency. You talk about bringing the currency back in. You talk about a lot of things as a result if that debt is not dealt with.
Well, this was the first thing that caught my attention was when Dr. Ferguson voted for Nancy Pelosi's 2021 budget deal. And when I saw that he had voted for it, that's what originally triggered me to start looking into his voting record. We are trapping ourselves. Right now, this administration, and with the willing aid of Congress, who is still effectively functioning off of that 2021 budget, they have printed just massive amounts of money to the point that we're spending $2 trillion more per year than they are taking in. That debt is going to accrue interest at a higher and higher rate as we go forward, because inflation is absolutely going to follow the printing of money. And the more debt we achieve, the more that we're not going to be able to pay off ourselves, and the more that we have to plan on passing to our children and our grandchildren. And I simply find it abhorrent that we think that that there's such a thing as free lunch, that someone doesn't pay for this. It's like Lady Thatcher said, the problem with socialism is that sooner or later you run out of other people's money. America has run out of other people's money. This debt is so incredibly massive, it's almost impossible to conceive how much of a $34 trillion debt is. It has to be addressed. We cannot pass omnibus spending bills, and we cannot pass these debt ceiling increases, or we're literally going to trap our nation into a place where America itself becomes bankrupt, and that is a certain way to lose world hegemony.
Just like a business loan or a credit card, if you're not paying down the principal, you're in trouble.
Correct. If you're not going in the correct direction, you will kill your company or your country.
All right, our guest this morning has been Jim Bennett. He's candidate for U.S. Congress. You walk up to a door, somebody walks up to you, and they say, I only got a minute. Why should I vote for you? What do you tell them?
I say that I'm running for all the right reasons. I'm running for yesterday. I'm running for Easter Sunday and an 8-on-8 kickball game where ladies are out there getting grass stains on their Easter Sunday clothes. I'm running because the people of this district matter to me, and I want to see them live, love, and thrive. This is my home, my district, and these are my people, and I want to see them well represented.
Somebody wants to contact the campaign, how should they go about it?
You can contact me directly, 770-328-3626, and my email address is jamesgilbertbennett.gmail.com. And my website is jimbennett.us. All of that information is on there as well.
All right. Well, thank you to Jim Bennett for coming in. We've got more congressional candidates coming in the future, and we hope you stay tuned for that. And we thank our sponsors, Oak Mountain Academy and Tanner Health System. All right. Go out and make it a great day. You're in tune to WLBB Carrollton.